What's clear is that environmental standards must be maintained and enhanced, but the regulations need to be simplified. And we're tackling this in Europe. Commissioner Cholos is here to listen and consider our suggestions. Dacian, you yourself are a champion of simplification, as your letter to EU ministers said on simplifying our common agricultural policy. We have the opportunity to make the reforms that will create simplicity and more freedom for farmers. So I urge you to be bold, act quickly, and I can assure you of our enthusiastic support. But in the meantime, in this country, we will be making it easier for farmers to comply with regulations by setting out in plain English the what and the why. Simpler messages and an easier way of getting them across so everyone gets the right guidance at the right time. Achieving simplification is not always that simple, of course, but it starts with partnership, with a bedrock of trust, value, and respect. That is what enables processes to be streamlined, rules to be simplified, freeing farmers to produce more high-quality food and to become more competitive. And of course, I believe this needs to happen in Europe too. Europe is blessed with 30% of the world's biomass, which means we have to take responsibility to feed a hungry world. So its farmers must be free to innovate and develop their commercial potential. They need a common agricultural policy that gives them that freedom as well as support. I'm realistic. Most European ministers know that the CAP budget will have to be smaller. Just look across Europe at the economic challenges we face. But the CAP must be simplified and it must be flexible. And above all, it must be looking forward, not backward. And it must reward farmers who are doing the same. Competitive farming needs open markets. It's not subsidies, regulations, and trade barriers that will feed an extra 1 billion mouths in just 13 years' time. It's you, the farmers. Greater market orientation with fair support for the provision of public goods is the right direction for the new CAP. So, how do the Commission's proposals stack up? Well, Commissioner, you've identified the right issues: food security, climate change, greening. Many of us here feel these are so urgent, your proposals should be more ambitious. They must recognise the regional differences of farming systems. Here, everything from uplands of Scotland to the arable acres of East Anglia. And be flexible enough to accommodate these variations. That way, you will free farms and farmers to meet your greening ambitions. I would argue, for example, that the UK is ahead of the curve with its agri-environment schemes, in that they are designed to involve all farms, not just specialists, with more stretching options and greater rewards for those who want them. This model works. UK farmers are and should be proud of what they've achieved through stewardship. And we want the CAP to recognise those achievements and to benefit from them too. The UK farmers should not be penalised for pioneering these schemes, nor must they be prevented from going further or faster. Greening needs to deliver meaningful environmental benefits, but it must also be compatible with the need to grow more food, and it must be for everyone, and it must be as simple as possible. It must enable farmers to continue producing, and it must be additional to measures for cross-compliance with other European legislation, and acknowledge our existing agri-environment schemes. And it must be able to recognise where contributions, although different from each other in different member states, are of equivalent value. Now, I don't want to underestimate the challenge of designing a greener, simpler CAP, but it's a challenge that must be met, and you have the UK's support in that. On competitiveness, the proposed measures under the Rural Development Regulation are a big step forward. In the UK, we already use rural development funds to support farm business development, for investment in physical assets such as high-flow storage reservoirs, for training, knowledge transfer and innovation through our Farmers for the Future programme, among others, and for cooperation amongst groups of producers. An example would be our excellent monitor farms, a concept borrowed from New Zealand. Monitor farms demonstrate best practice to other farmers. The proposed measure for the new programme offers more flexibility and more options, which we welcome. This is exactly the sort of support that will help farmers develop skills to compete abroad. But on the one hand, Pillar 2 measures to improve competitiveness while in Pillar 1 there are measures that hold it back. Now, we wholeheartedly agree with you that we need to invest in agricultural research, so I particularly welcome the proposed European Innovation Partnership for Sustainable Agriculture. It'll help channel the fruits of research straight into tools and technologies. For us, it's the vital Pillar 2 funds that should be allocated objectively rather than being based on historic spend. According to the Commission's own data, the UK's allocation of Pillar 2 funding per hectare in 2013 is the lowest of any member state. Now, this must be addressed in the new CAP. The UK needs the right support to help meet the Commissioner's ambitions. We must have early clarity on both Pillar 1 and Pillar 2 allocations before we can decide on the regulation or indeed the CAP package. So, to return to my theme, we need more simplification. There are some improvements, but they're marred by the proposals which bring complexity, bureaucracy, and some headaches. We must keep weeding away until we get to a truly simple structure to support clear and focused rural development programmes. New rules must be as simple as possible and proportionate to the benefits. On this, all EU governments agree. This test must be applied and be met. Active farmers, for example. Now, this proposal is a good one in principle, of course. No one wants to see taxpayers' money going to people who don't actually farm, produce food, or deliver any public goods. But looking at people's tax returns is, I feel, not the answer. If we think about what it would mean here, it would mean marrying the Rural Payments Agency database to the Revenue and Customs database. I think you'll agree that would be a nightmare scenario. Now, I think there are better ways of identifying active farmers, and individual member states know best how to make these decisions, so please trust us to do so. Just as here, we're showing our farmers we trust them to deliver and do the right thing. On small farmers, we say yes to simplification, but no to exempting them from cross-compliance and greening. Commissioner, you will not achieve your laudable ambitions for divesting small farmers of their responsibility by divesting small farmers of their responsibility for protecting nature. At the same time, it won't encourage productivity and competitiveness, and it will stifle innovation. It isn't acceptable to farmers like ours who've already acted to preserve the environment. The CAP is a common policy, after all. Last summer, I attended the G20 Agriculture Ministers meeting in Paris. What was striking about that meeting was that on the need to increase food production sustainably, we were all agreed. I thought it was significant that the UN high-level panel that Peter showed a slide of recognised the importance of promoting an evergreen revolution. And at the Rio +20 Sustainable Development Summit that I mentioned earlier, which will take place in June, agriculture is up there at the top of the agenda because it is at the heart of the green, sustainable economy. That's why I've been calling for global action to improve agricultural productivity and sustainability. The threat of increasing hunger is bringing the world's eyes onto farming. We cannot meet that threat by standing still. The UK needs to demonstrate, indeed showcase, our own progress. It has a golden opportunity to show the world just how sustainable, just how competitive this industry can be. I will work with my European colleagues and with you, Commissioner, to make that a reality. And as I began by stating my respect for this industry and by emphasising its importance nationally and globally to the economy, to the environment, and to our future well-being, I repeated the government's pledge to work in partnership with you, working to meet the challenges, seize the opportunities that are yours. Our response to the MacDonald report takes this partnership to a new level. So let's keep going. Let's keep working together, because together we can maximise the UK's share of the world market for the goods and services that you provide. Because together, with our European colleagues, we can ensure a common agricultural policy that is fit for the future. And because the rest of the world depends on us to do that. Thank you very much.